My name's Dave Jones. I'm an ATP. I'm Director of Drives Power Mobility Training. I've been in the industry since 1989. I've been an ATP since 1999. I've had the great fortune to work with several companies in different segments of the HME industry, allowing me to develop 23 years of cross-industry experience working with several providers, manufacturers, as well as group purchasing organizations. And I've, over the past 14 months as Director of Drives Power Mobility Training, had the good fortune to travel around the country with our reps and visit with over 450 dealers over the past 14 months. And what I've heard is kind of the formulation or the brainchild of where this PowerPoint started. I've heard a common list of primary concerns as they relate to competitive bidding, Medicare, and providing power mobility devices. The key here is, and a common theme has been that we all realize that times are tough for power mobility providers. Audits have increased, and reimbursement rates are nowhere near what they used to be. These changes have made it extremely hard for you to run your business. The bottom line is you've had to run more lean and become more efficient. On top of that, you've got an added workload and more burden put on your plate. So in addition to some of the administrative regulations from Medicare that have added complexity or power to your business, there's a plethora of other symptoms that are affecting your business. Physician progress notes and requirements. Not only do they place an added burden on the physician, leading to, if you don't have the correct documentation, but they also place an added burden on the dealer provider to track down those notes. As we all realize, the certificate of medical necessity has now been replaced with chart notes and documentation that you're relying on the physician to document. And that's based on the next step, the Medicare's 9-step algorithm that allows them to determine a beneficiary's eligibility for power mobility device. The bottom line is that they're trying to eliminate least costly alternatives, but also provide the ability for the beneficiary to complete their mobility-related activities to daily living. And that's the key. So additionally, the physician that is documenting all of this must be registered in PACOS, which is Medicare's provider enrollment chain and ownership system. So unless the doctor has registered in this system, allowing them to write prescriptions for Medicare beneficiaries, the whole prescription and process may be in jeopardy. And a key complaint is the overwhelming number of audits, both on new claims and on existing claims 2 or 3 years old. Denying claims based on minor technicalities, one element of the 7-element order not being completed. And that's as trivial as doctor's signature not being eligible or not there. On top of this, there's a restricted cash flow for anybody that's involved in competitive bidding, as we know that this Medicare reimburses power mobility devices out over a 13-month period. So it's a capped rental period, putting the burden and onus of making sure that you've got that capital equipment and are financing it on the dealer provider's shoulders. And then an additional concern or challenge that I've heard is that many of the winners in consumer power are very versed in manual wheelchairs and wanted to bid in manual, obviously knew that power was included, but may not be as versed in power mobility, providing the equipment, billing, or reimbursing the equipment. So a lot of folks are getting up to speed on power mobility reimbursement. So the key that I've found is that we can't continue to follow the cookie cutter approach. One code does not fit all. What you may not have thought about is that improper product alignment, i.e. coding, and then branding yourself as a one-size-fits-all company can really spell disaster for your business. And we've seen this. There's been a steady decline, and this is pretty dramatic slide here. The past decade, the past 10 years, from 2003 to 2013, has seen a fairly dramatic drop in both reimbursement amounts and utilization. In 2003, average reimbursement was near $5,300, with utilization near 230,000 individuals being provided either K11, which is now the K0823 code, and now you can see that steady decline down over 10 years, with the 9.5% reduction illustrated in 2009, the accreditation requirement highlighted in 2010, all the way down to what estimated 2013 utilization and reimbursement rates are going to be. And as we've all seen, average reimbursement on that K0823 code is gone from nearly $5,300 down to $1,889, with a predicted utilization of 65,000 individuals. And it's key also to understand that Medicare is fine with this and endorsing this drop in utilization and reimbursement, and stating that it's not going to affect patient outcomes. So in the past, we have, and myself included, I've worked for dealer providers as an ATP doing seating and positioning and providing power mobility devices from scooters to high-end rehab chairs. But I'd always believed, and I think several of folks that do seating and positioning or provide power mobility devices, that we could always get somebody who needed power mobility into that group 2, that K0823, that more encompassing, more durable, more reliable power chair. But a recent quarterly review of claims for K0823 chairs in Jurisdiction A, this is in the fourth quarter of 2012, revealed that there was a denial rate of more than 80% of those claims. So, consider a denial rate of 80% and what that can do to your business. Let alone the fact that if you're doing things correct, even if you have a denial on 1 of 10 out of your K0823 or whatever code you're overutilizing is, that can still put a company underwater unless you're adopting a new path. I just want to reiterate this, we always thought as a group, I think collectively, that we could, if they needed power mobility, not a scooter, we could bump them up into that group 2 code. And I think without necessarily looking at the true data behind that, the denial rates and what a denial can cost you. I do want to reiterate to anyone new that's just recently joined the call, if you do have any questions, please type them into the question tool, and we will answer all those questions offline and after the conference call. So the denial rates are stunning, and we've seen a real-world example of what this can cause. We've seen a large national provider of power wheelchairs, power mobility devices, continuously billing the same code, that K0823 code. They faced increased audits, but continued to follow the same cookie-cutter approach to providing power mobility. They've declared bankruptcy, and they're at risk of losing the entire business. So the paradigm has completely shifted. There is a new way forward that I think Medicare has endorsed, and it truly should, to any ATP or seating and positioning or wheeled mobility specialist, really be a breath of fresh air, because this is what we've tried to do and should be trying to do all the time, is matching the patient to the correct product. And that is a combination of their being able to complete their MRADLs, mobility-related activities of daily living, and how they're going to be utilizing that in their everyday lifestyle. So it's an opportunity for us to get it right the first time. And there's also, this is a great opportunity to talk about, putting the patient first and starting with the home assessment, which we'll get into, allowing you to do it right the first time. Additionally, this new way forward, you're being in the home, allows for other selling opportunities in the home, those up-caring opportunities. We have a lot of data that clearly illustrates that there's a ton of discretionary income being spent online, and we have programs and ways, and we know that you are the experts. You've been invited into the home for that assessment. There are ways for you to capitalize on that business as well. So not only is it good for patient outcomes, which is good for the clinician, physician, payer, but it's also a great opportunity and a great new strategy for move forward strategy. I've always believed and thought, I've been in this industry for over 23 years, as I stated earlier, and I always really have thought about my vocation this way on a daily basis. Why do I do what I do? Or, to the larger group, why do we do what we do? And, the first and obvious thing that comes to my mind is the patient. And it's obvious, but has it always been the way that we've approached this business? I think that hasn't been the case. I think the old way, there's been a look at what the reimbursement levels are, how they associate with that code and that product, and then the unique situation is many times ignored, and you're picking a product based on reimbursement and code only. What we're suggesting, and what you're going to hear as a recurring theme, and probably have already throughout this presentation, is that's the old way, and the new way is patient first, and that we've got to make sure that we're matching the correct product to the patient. And that's based on their physical limitations as well as their lifestyle and environmental choices. So what you'll see if you do put the patient first, I think, through this presentation, is that you have a chance to not only get great outcomes, but you're also going to have the chance to be more profitable, and which we're going to talk about more as we move forward. So again, the new way forward, based on our new reimbursement levels starting on Monday, providers have a better opportunity than ever to really dial in the patient with the product. I can show you how over the next several slides. It's going to be imperative that you understand how to match the correct product to the patient, and how that is a path to success in today's Medicare reimbursement climate. I've highlighted some common codes and ones that we'll focus on here today, along with maybe a couple of others, that are the reimbursement rates under round 2 of competitive bidding. Let's go back to what that perspective was in 2003 on the K0823 code of nearly $5,300. We've got average reimbursement rates in the far right corner, but several states are as low as $1,490 and as high as $2,200. But I think what you'll see is that the K0814 and through K0825, and including the K0823, as long as you're moving forward with the patient-first mentality, there are going to be opportunities within Medicare's parameters to provide the correct product for physical limitations as well as environmental challenges. So picking the right product, Group 1 power versus Group 2. I think many of you are aware, but it's I think imperative that we talk about it. In the past, Medicare and CMS had used the concept of assigning the differentiator between Group 1 qualification and Group 2 qualification for power mobility devices, intermittent use in the home for Group 1 versus continuous use in the home for Group 2, all to complete your mobility-related activities of daily living. That's all changed. Medicare coverage criteria and documentation requirements are now identical in Group 1 and Group 2. And it's going to be more evident about what we're talking about in patient physical limitations and environmental choices in choosing and selecting the correct product as we move forward through this presentation. But please understand, this is a huge difference. The intermittent language is now dropped, and the devil is in the details, and that detail can be accomplished up front by great organizations to provide awesome clinical outcomes, as well as make yourself as profitable as you can be in this climate. I'd like to get into some patient scenarios. And as you'll note, the recurring theme is the patient's first, and it's by design. We're talking about the patient, Betty Jones. Her profile, she's a 67-year-old lady, 5'3", 170 pounds. She has had a stroke. She lives at home. It's a large and ADA compliant home. Betty fatigues easily and loses balance frequently. She loses all ability to functionally ambulate by mid-afternoon and has gone through that 9-step algorithm and has finally progressed from cane to walker to where now she needs a scooter or a Group 1 power mobility device. She's regaining some function in her right side, in her left side. She's predominant with the right hand. Her husband sleeps late. She gets up early. Some benefits of this unit for Betty is that the scooter is really all that she needs. She doesn't need it necessarily in the all day, but a couple of things. She's got more strength in her right side. Our Delta Tiller, combined with a unique feature of Drive Scooters lineup, is the fact that all of our scooters are programmable in the field. So because of Betty's dexterity and fatigue issues, as well as where she is in her state of rehab, we're able to program with a normal power mobility, that most dealers have on already in their shop, program the throw of that joystick. Betty likes to be able to pull on the thumb lever instead of push on that thumb lever. She also takes her scooter into bed at night because that's how she can get into the bed. So when she gets up, she needs to move it out of the bed, out of the bedroom. Her husband sleeps late. The first night that they got this device, there's an audible beep in reverse, woke him up. He was none too happy. We were also, the dealer provider making the selection was also able to program out the audible beep. As I stated earlier, Betty lives in a large home. It's ADA compliant. She was able to make the transition into her bathroom where it was most important for her in the afternoon to do her bathing and toileting, as well as cook dinner for her husband in the evening in the kitchen. So the scooter selection in the K0800 code, which we're highlighting our Spitfire 1320 here, was ultimately the best selection based on Betty's physical limitations, her diagnosis, what her prognosis estimates were, as well as her lifestyle, not only in her home, but that of her caregivers and how she lives her life on a daily basis. So the K0800 in this scenario makes perfect sense, and where you're going to get great patient outcomes and happy clients and happy provider. Move forward to a second patient scenario, again illustrating the client. Mike Smith, 70-year-old individual, 5'6", 315 pounds. He's a bariatric client, obese, has COPD, lives in a large retirement community in California. He utilizes an O2 tank and is no longer able to propel his manual wheelchair because of fatigue issues, strength issues. He does live in a large retirement community, so Although this is a larger scooter coming in both a 3-wheel and a 4-wheel version, it's a bariatric product with a 350-pound weight capacity. Large drive wheels all the way around, large ground clearance. He's able to get out and about over the rocks and grass in his community and zip around, not only be able to live his life outside of his MRADLs, but have an enjoyable life in his retirement community. So the product selection was made based on his weight, his functionality, his seating and positioning, lack of concerns, how he lives his life in this retirement community. A note to make here is that we talk about his O2. All of Drive products, and I'm highlighting our Phoenix HD product, but all of our products on their seating systems have an accessory bracket. One of the many accessories that are available for Drive Power Mobility products is an oxygen tank holder. So Mike's able to put his O2 tank holder on and get out and about and enjoy his life outside of his retirement community, making the Phoenix HD and a K0801 bariatric scooter the most appropriate option in this scenario. Next patient scenario, again, Harry Levin is the individual. He's a 74-year-old guy, 5'11", 185 pounds. He's got diabetes. Lives in a small home in Long Island with his wife. He travels in the winter down to Arizona for 4 months out of the year. He's only utilized a cane up until this point, but significant weakness and dialysis appointments that he has once a week are really taking it out of him. He's facing an amputation shortly. Family lives in the area, so he's got not only a younger wife who's in great health, but he's got a family and a support system within blocks and several others within miles of him. He really couldn't access the bathroom in a scooter. Bottom line is, when the home assessment was done by the provider, there was an option that maybe we only needed a scooter. But to be able to get into the bathroom, there's a very narrow hallway, a very narrow bathroom door, and for all intents and purposes, a bathroom that is tiny. So this provider that went out on this scenario, knowing the living situation, made some determinations to take along with the scooter a very compact, transportable power mobility base. Harry was able to easily manipulate his bathroom to be able to get in and do his bathing and toileting. It was additionally easy for his wife to disassemble this, very similar to a scooter, as in the K0814 version of the Cobalt, it is a transportable power mobility device. The heaviest piece being 35 pounds when fully disassembled. The batteries disassemble from the front piece, making the two front pieces approximately 26 pounds. Not only is it manageable for his wife for dialysis appointments, although he does have son and daughter help, but easily manageable for her to get into the backseat of the car for their longer trips down to their Arizona home. So the transportability of the K0814 and the Cobalt specifically made this the perfect option to be able to have that transportability, compact design to be able to complete his mobility-related activities of daily living, manageable enough for his caregivers to get into a car or wherever it needed to go for visits to the doctor or for trips to a winter home. The Cobalt X814 made perfect sense. If they did not need the transportable option, just needed the smaller footprint, this Cobalt is also available in a non-transportable which would be the KO816 version. Moving to the next scenario, Sherry Washington, she's 65, she's 5'9", and 155 pounds. She's got CHF with circulation complications. She lives at home with her husband in Ohio, and they spend 4 months a year out of their beach home in Florida. She's been using a walker for mobility, but she's had some recent falls lately. Very significant concern for her husband. She needs longer range because they live in a bigger house. The primary differentiator between a Group 2 and a Group 1 power mobility is overall range of the device must go at least 7 miles. So we've got a situation where, based on transportability, completing similar MRADLs in the bathroom was a concern, but she needed to be able to have a longer range because she was very, very active moving from bathroom to bedroom to kitchen within her home throughout the day. It made the selection of the Cobalt KO821 power mobility device the perfect solution. As you can tell, average reimbursement on this product is about $350 more than the average reimbursement on the KO823. So this is a transportable version of a KO823. Okay? And again, we talked about earlier the requirements being the same for all of those power mobility devices within Group 1 and Group 2. All leading back to the patient scenario and that recurring theme of patient first, not reimbursement first. Although it's going to lead to a profitable and great clinical outcome. An additional patient scenario for a KO822 power mobility device is a 65-year-old Scott Johnson. He's 160 years old, double amputee, arthritis. He's recently lost his wife, and he lives with his son's family in rural Kentucky. He's been in a manual wheelchair for 15 years, and he really can no longer efficiently self-propel a manual wheelchair. This chair made sense for a variety of reasons. The comfort level that he felt in transitioning from manual wheelchair, which is similar in movement to a rear wheel power mobility device. Also, the seating system. He had adjustable tension back upholstery on his manual wheelchair, which he loved. This chair comes with adjustable tension back upholstery. He's a taller individual. He's 6'1". The back canes on this device could be raised 4 inches to give him some better contact support throughout his back and improve his comfort level in the chair. Additionally, this power mobility device sits a little bit lower to the seat, to the ground. So it made for a more comfortable and familiar seat to floor height for his transfers and his communication in his home with his family members. This was something that he was used to. It also easily adapted to his amputee attachment that he had. Has one amputee attachment for his stump on his right side. Very easy to adapt and adjust this chair. So also, he lives with his son's family in rural Kentucky, and although there's a nice bedroom for him, it's somewhat cramped, and this device stays in the hallway in the evening, and it is actually, batteries are disassembled, and it's folded up, and it goes into a hall closet. Based on Scott's physical needs, limitations, as well as his comfort level with the power mobility device that he wanted to choose, the familiarity of how the chair felt to what he was used to, as well as to his living situation, made the folding frame power mobility device in the K0822 code, which is our Cirrus Plus, the appropriate choice in this product category and for this particular client profile. Moving to Frank Bush. Frank is a 68-year-old individual, 5'8", 255 pounds, rheumatoid arthritis. He lives in an assisted living facility since falling and breaking his hip. So he's got some real comfort level issues, whether they're perceived or actual physical limitations. It's more perceived based on clinician reports. But he's been using a scooter for the past 7 years. He's no longer got the strength and dexterity to functionally operate, and he started to complain about the thin padding in his scooter. He needed the range, power, and speed that wasn't able to be provided in a Group 1 power mobility device, and he was looking for the comfort level provided in a high-back captain seat with some limited recline. Additionally, he was looking for the actual seat surface to provide some bucketing with a little bit of abduction, some troughing, and some hip guides. Both of the chairs that were trialed with him were front-wheel drive power mobility devices, and Frank preferred the more rugged Trident version. Has an extremely comfortable seat. He was very comfortable in it, especially being able to open up that adjustable angle and open his back angle up a little bit. Made it extremely comfortable for him, besides the fact that he also liked to get outside at his assisted living facility and go out over the curb cuts and things on the sidewalk and get around and tool around and show off his 14-inch drive wheels and the shroudless design of the Trident. It could have been a great solution, which is our Titan, the smaller wheeled red power mobility device. It was just a personal preference and a choice that Frank wanted to make in his product selection. So we talked about Frank and his needs as an individual, and also that took into account the style and what he wanted to present to the community. So that was a lot of patient choice involved in the product selection. Not only is it going to really accomplish what he needs to have great clinical outcomes, but it's also going to give him the confidence and comfort level that he needs to feel in his power mobility device. The last scenario I've got for you is about Ruth Walters. Ruth is 66. She's a short lady, 5'1", and 295 pounds. She suffers from obesity, congestive heart failure, and she lives in affordable housing. It's small, but it is ADA compliant. She's had a previous power wheelchair that is out of service. She's had that for about 6 or 7 years. It's on its last legs, and it's a rear-wheel drive power mobility device. She's currently using a backup manual wheelchair that somebody has loaned her. So Ruth has a unique situation. She's under 300 pounds. However, she's within that 5% range of 300 that Medicare deems it appropriate to qualify for a K0825 bariatric coded chair. So again, to restate that, when you're within 5 percentage points of 300 pounds, that equals 285 pounds and up, you qualify for a bariatric power mobility device. Because she has been in a rear-wheel drive chair and the provider knew this going in, he went out with the Renegade, a unique K0825 offering from Drive that is a 350-pound weight capacity rear-wheel drive power mobility device. Ruth doesn't require a chair built to 450-pound specifications that would lead to a more expensive cost of acquisition of that chair. All that Ruth needs is a proven chair that's got a great warranty and this proven track record and reliability, is going to perform similarly to her rear-wheel drive chair that she's been used to and provide the great outcome that she's looking for. The provider, knowing that he had a great acquisition cost because the product is able to be built to 350-pound specifications, making for a little bit lower acquisition cost than a 450-pound build, but also providing great product reliability in that Group 2 Bariatric K0825 code, and also providing a reimbursement level on average that is extremely livable within the Medicare reimbursement parameters. So following all that up, we talked about the coverage criteria and documentation requirements being the same for standard power wheelchairs. But I hope what I illustrated throughout every single slide is many other factors are going to come into play when you're deciding what power mobility device that you want to choose for your patient. First and foremost, it's the medical needs and the physical limitations and how the power mobility device is going to help them complete their mobility-related activities of daily living in the home. Second, and no less important, is how and where the patient's going to be using this power wheelchair. Keeping in mind that the differences, again, between Group 1 and Group 2 are based on characteristic performances alone. A Group 1 may provide the necessary performance to meet the patient's in-home needs. However, it may not meet their lifestyle needs. So considering the patient's indoor and outdoor activities in selecting the appropriate mobility device is paramount in deciding and picking and consulting on the right power mobility device for your client. And lastly, is the decision to provide a certain model of power wheelchair is really going to be based on your biases, your preferences as a supplier, as well as your comfort level. But equally important, it's going to depend and should depend on the patient's individual preferences. I think we really highlighted that in the differences between the K0800 through K0825 chairs. Also to consider with Medicare capped rental and the burden of carrying a capped rental and financing that product out over 13 months till you get full reimbursement back from Medicare, there are ways to successfully match accessories for the patient and their product. And these accessories are, in many cases, billed as a upfront first month purchase option, with the exception of elevating leg rests, which you can take back if the power mobility device does not cap out. But you've got an opportunity in that first month, depending on, a scenario that I presented would have presented the opportunity for a swing away joystick, oxygen holder, and elevating leg rest, as well as U1 batteries. In that scenario, you're looking at first month purchase option upcharges of $300 to $400 that offset the burden of having to finance that chair over 13 months. So considering appropriate accessories as they benefit the patient and the patient's lifestyle, not only are going to be making sure that you're putting the patient first, are also going to offset some of the concerns that you've got with financing that chair out over 13 months. So in getting to this kind of the end of our presentation, how can Drive help? I think we provided an outline of what the situation is and a summary and a snapshot of what that history's been, and a partial solution through our Power Mobility division. I think that we've got a lot of great resources besides our Power Mobility division, and those include on-site dotting the I's and crossing the T's training for guidance on your documentation and reimbursement needs. We've got great product support, including best in the industry warranty of 14 months, a peace of mind protection plan providing a warranty and service and maintenance of that chair over that 14-month warranty span. Also great technical and customer service by dialing our Drive number, which I'll give you at the end of the presentation. We've got great delivery options. We've got cash flow opportunities and programs, including great leasing options. We have retail program development. We have e-commerce division, and on with a variety of different product categories to resource Drive for. So to bring it home, I know I've been redundant. I know it's been a recurring theme, but it's something that we really think that in focusing on, not only are you going to have great patient outcomes, but by matching the product to the patient and dotting the I's and crossing the T's, you're going to be able to follow the detailed CMS billing framework and all those guidelines, and you're going to minimize your risk. And that's going to equal great outcomes, optimal clinical results. Your patient's going to be happy. The physician and clinician are going to be happy. The payer's going to be happy. And you as a provider are going to be as happy as you possibly can under the competitive bidding of Medicare. We really appreciate your time today. If there were any questions, I'm going to follow up and address those offline. But if you have any needs or you want additional information or schedule an on-site visit from our team, please contact your local territory business manager or me directly. My contact information is there. I have extension 4616 at the Drive number, or my cell phone number is there for you to read. I'm also can be reached at djones@drivemedical.com. We really appreciate your time. Thank you very much, and I look forward to working with you in the future.